Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashivasamarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ramo Rajamanis Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Bihata Nishacharachamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha. रामान्नास्ति परायणं परतरं रामस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं रामे चित्तलयः सदा भवतु मे भो राम मामुद्धर समस्तजनकल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् ॐ आप्यायन्तु ममाङ्गानि वाक्प्राणश्चक्षुश्रोत्रमथो बलमिन्द्रियाणि च सर्वाणि सर्वं ब्रह्मोपनिषदं माहं ब्रह्म निराकुर्यां मा ब्रह्म निराकरोत् अनिराकरणमस्त्वनिराकरणं मे अस्तु तदात्मनि निरतेय उपनिषत्सु धर्माः ते मयि सन्तु ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः. Hari Om everyone. Yesterday we saw several points about how to turn this mind towards Sat. So Uddalaka Muni is not getting tired of giving several examples, several different ways. It is said, Kenapi upayena manah Krishne niveshayet. In Bhagavatam it is said, do whatever means you want, but put your mind in Bhagwan Krishna. So in Upanishad it is, Kenapi upayena manah sadatmani niveshayet. With whatever means, whatever method, try to shift this mind and abide in your true nature as Sat. So with that, Uddalaka Muni explained this point, that Shvetaketu, these three elements are there in your own self. How are they present? He said, the food that we eat is divided into three parts. The other two parts you are very familiar with, the gross portion and the medium portion. But what might be new is the subtle portion. Annamayam hi somya manaha means mind is formed from the subtle portion of food. Apomayaha pranaha tejomayi vagiti. The water that we drink nourishes prana, and then the fire element, all the oily things that we eat, the subtle portion goes on to nourish the speech. Then came the section where Shvetaketu asked a question, that can you please explain this part? How does this food become the mind? I don't understand that connection very well. To explain that was this fasting experiment. For 15 days, Uddalaka Muni told Shvetaketu to fast, and then he comes back, and then whatever he had to communicate, that he tells him. The main thing is, this mind is a modification of food. Just as food grows and it decays, mind also will show different colors. Don't get too bothered by it. Do sadhana sincerely to take care of this mind, but we don't have to own up this mind. We don't have to say that I am this mind. I am Sat. I am that pure consciousness. I am the witness of this mind, if you want to put it in that way. In today's meditation, we saw one point that I am not mind looking for Sat. I am Sat looking at this mind. Recently, we were having a discussion. In Vedanta, we say, turn your attention inwards, right? So, what we feel is, first I have to turn attention inwards from this world. Different objects are pulling my attention away. Now I have turned attention inward. Now I have to even go more inward, you know. So from this mind, I want to look at that Sat. Say, no, no, no. Turning attention inwards is only from outer to this mind. And then in this mind, you bring this knowledge that I am not this mind. Okay? I am that Sat looking at this mind. This mind is borrowing existence from me, so it is not another real entity. But even if you appreciate mind is matter, it is not who I am, that much is good. This whole thing was to explain that point, this fasting experiment. Then we saw the point of comparison between deep sleep and Jivan Mukti. Yesterday's satsang, this was the topic over here in person. One thing to notice, deep sleep is an example. The Upanishad Rishi does not want to say that deep sleep is Jivan Mukti. One clarification on that point. Deep sleep is an example, and it is more pertinent or very good example because all of us go through it. Right? So we can talk about deep sleep, we can understand Jivan Mukti by using example of deep sleep. Now if Uddalaka Muni had to give example of Samadhi or some other avastha where only few people are able to go, we would never appreciate it. That is why Bhagwan Shankaracharya also, in many of his bhashya, he doesn't give Samadhi example. He gives deep sleep example so that we can map the similarities and we also understand what is dissimilar. Like we saw different points, right? In deep sleep, there is no perception of this world, but in Jivan Mukti, there is perception of this world, but reality is taken away. So like that, there will be similarities and dissimilarity, but we should appreciate this is an example, not directly saying that Jivan Mukti means deep sleep. That would have been the easiest path to moksha. You sleep every day and you are liberated. Then we saw this very beautiful metaphor that this mind throughout the day flies in so many directions to so many places. Just like that bird which is on the ship flies in several other directions, but it doesn't get any place to land. So finally it comes back to its own source. Our mind is also like that. Different things it goes to, unable to find Nitya Sukham. That is why today's bhajan was very apt. So some Sukham you will get, but that Sukham will not be Nitya Sukham. Nitya Sukham means that Ananda which does not go away, where I don't have to put lot of effort to get that Ananda. He says that Ananda one will not get. If at all mind flies to different places, what should be our prayer? Say, Bhagwan, may this mind go to auspicious things. Okay, this is the whole essence of Shiva Sankalpa Suktam. Tanme manaha Shiva Sankalpam astu. I cannot stop my mind from going in different places, right? Because the type of life that we live, so many responsibilities. But one thing we can pray is, Bhagwan, may my mind not go to things which will create agitation. May I not have thoughts which are more rajasic in nature or tamasic in nature. That prayer we can do. And the first verse of Shiva Sankalpa Suktam is the same analogy. Yajjagrato duramudaiti daivam tadusuptasya tathaivaiti. The indication of mind is done in the same way. What is mind? Mind is that which flies to far off things in waking, but it doesn't stay there forever. It finally comes back to the same substratum, which is Satvastu. Says on one side, may I do nirmana, may I create a very nice mind, and through pramana, may I know that this mind is nothing but consciousness. Okay, this is what we had seen yesterday. Some of these ideas might be new for you. If you are listening for the first time to an Upanishad, we should try to align our thinking with Upanishad. Many times what happens is, we wish that Upanishads should say the same thing that I believe in. I think I am this mind, or whatever other notions I might be having. And I think Upanishad should say the same thing. If it does not, then Upanishad is wrong. So sadhaka is the one who says, Maham Brahma Nirakuryam. Even if I don't fully establish, if I am not fully established in this truth, may I not deny this truth. May I sincerely do my sadhana. May I study more thoroughly and come to abide in what Upanishad is saying. Okay. Now Shvetaketu asked a question, and we had chanted this portion last time, that, oh teacher, tell me a few methods by which I can turn attention to Sat, and let it be some simple method that I am familiar with. So Upanishad Rishi is now giving a very simple method. He says, enquire into hunger, you will reach Sat. Enquire into hunger. So simple. He says, yes, very simple. Just appreciate what are the steps by which we can turn attention to Sat. So the whole idea of this portion of enquire into hunger and thirst is, there can be no effect without a cause. Okay? If at all you see any effect, there has to be a cause behind it. Like today morning, you wake up and you see outside that your whole lawn is wet, the street is wet, everything is wet. Now, if somebody asks you, why is everything wet? You don't say it is random. You say, maybe it might have rained last night. Okay, so wherever you are seeing an effect, say there has to be a cause behind it. So this portion is asking us to train our mind to think about this cause. Not only immediate cause, but go to the next step. Go to the next step. What is the absolute cause from which this effect has come about? So what is the easiest effect that I can start with? We say easiest effect is this body. Okay, body is an effect. You inquire into what is the cause of this effect. Where has this body come from? Step by step, inquire, you will reach Sat. Okay, that is the main idea. Hold on to this, then this whole section is very easy. So first thing Uddalaka Muni says is, inquire into the cause of this body. Where did this body come from? If this body has come from eating, right? Whatever food that we eat, that alone has become this body. And previously also we saw how the gross portion is rejected. In between portion becomes all the nutrition and everything. That is how this physical body is formed. This is, stop there. What is the first step? Effect is the body, cause is food. Shvetaketu, have you ever wondered, why do you want to eat food? Say, I feel hungry. That is why I want to eat food. But why do you feel hungry? Cause effect, Wherever you see the effect, go to the cause. Say hunger is the effect. What is the cause of this hunger? Say hunger is there because the water element which is there in our stomach, that has led the food away from the stomach. Okay, this is the same mantra. I'm just paraphrasing or translating it. अशना पिपासे मे सौम्य विजानीहि इति यत्र एतत् पुरुषः अशिशिष्यति नाम. That person who is desirous to eat gets this name Ashishishyati. Tongue twister name, huh? Try saying it, Ashishishyati. You will notice how difficult it is to say it that way. So this person who is desirous to eat gets this name Ashishishati. Okay. But where did this hunger come from? He says, Apaha eva tat ashitam nayante. This water which is there in the body, that has led the food away from the stomach. That is why we feel hunger. And Upanishad gives an example how it leads, just like a person who is leading cows or leading horses. You know how he takes them one by one. Like that, this water takes away the food from the stomach. That is why we feel hunger. But how is this water able to lead that food away? Say, enquire there. Leading of the food by the water is an effect. Enquire into the cause of that phenomenon. When you enquire there, you will realize it is because fire is cooking that food. That is why it is leading it. It is able to lead it away. Okay, Jatharagni, which is there, that is cooking. So Shvetaketu, one thing you understand, that there cannot be any effect without a cause. Tasya kwa moolam syat. Enquire into the cause. Don't just leave the effect, go back to the cause, and from that cause go back to further cause. And like this, when you trace back, you will reach Sat. How have we reached Sat? He says, from Annam we came to hunger. From hunger we came to water element. We said water is that which leads the food away. Okay, so come to that water element. From water element come to fire. That fire which is cooking the food inside. Did you notice something, Shvetaketu? The same three elements have come back now. Fire, water, and earth. Where did all this emerge from? It says from the same Sat, all that has emerged from. So if you inquire into hunger, you will reach Sat. Now, even if we don't inquire in this way every time, what this method will do is, it will slow down our mind. Whenever we sit to eat, many a times it is working lunch. We stand and eat, or we are just running in between meetings, just grabbing a sandwich. I say that is okay. But just putting this silent effort, that what is happening over here? What is enlivening this body? And towards that, since how many janmas I have not paid attention to. Okay, this is a very simple method, but the main point is, using this simple method only, shift attention to that Sat. This is called as Karya Karana. Wherever there is an effect, Karya, inquire into Karana. And mind should be constantly turned towards this Sat. Meaning what? It should have this knowledge that I am that Sat. In me alone, this entire creation is appearing. And the same Sat is of the nature of Bhagavan. That also is there. The symbolic or the metaphorical representation of this you will find in Lord Shiva. What is the vehicle of Lord Shiva? Nandiji. And if you go to any temple, you will see Nandiji standing there in front. And his one eye is looking at Lord Shiva. So we should be like that Nandiji. One aspect is always keeping attention on that higher reality. Sat Swarupa, Lord Shiva. So enquire in this way, look at the effect, go to the cause. With lot of Shraddha in Upanishad mantra. More we appreciate Upanishad as pramana, more we will put forth effort to enquire in this way. Then comes this final statement, O Shvetaketu, Sanmulaha Somya Imaha Sarvaha Prajaha. All these beings who are there, all jivas which are there, entire creation has this Sat as its absolute cause, as its substratum. It has emerged from that Sat. It is sustained in that Sat. And it will dissolve back in that Sat. What will dissolve back? What has emerged? Say only names and forms. There is no modification in Sat. Only the different names and forms that you see around, that has emerged from Sat. That will, or that is sustained in Sat, and that will dissolve back in Sat. You are that Sat, you are not this name and form. What is the name and form here? The physical body. Okay. If you want a simpler example of this Sanmulaha Somya Imaha Prajaha Sadayatanaha Sat Pratishtaha, instead of saying Sat, in this example you say water. Okay. All waves have emerged from that water. Just like Upanishad Rishi said, Sanmulaha Somya Imaha, right? You say all waves have emerged from that water. Jalamulaha eva Somya Imaha Tarangaha. Tarangaha means waves. All waves have emerged from water. Jala Pratishtaha or Jala Ayatanaha. They are sustained in this water. Even when I am seeing waves, what is there is water alone. So even when I am seeing this world of names and forms, what is there is Sat alone. And Jala Ayatanaha. When the waves become quiet, where did the wave merge? So that wave merged back into that water. So when all names and forms become quietened, and now that portion is going to come, when we drop this physical body, you say this Jiva merges back into that Sat. Okay, this is the main teaching over here. Sanmulaha Somya Imaha Prajaha Sat Ayatanaha Sat Pratishtaha. Only on this portion we can meditate. This is an ocean of existence in which names and forms are floating. Now don't think about literal floating. There is no levitation happening. It is just a way of representing that these names and forms are all appearances in existence. Now the second method is enquiry into thirst. Okay, it's a very similar portion. So I will not read the mantra. Okay, you will have to read it on your own because we are in 8th section now and we have 3 more classes to go. Okay, so few things we'll have to skip over, but I'll cover all the important ideas. So this portion is also where Upanishad Rishi is saying, enquire into thirst and you will reach that Satvastu. Shvetaketu is now excited. He says, can you tell me step by step? I like that previous thing about how you said, why do we get hungry? I never thought that water leads food away from my stomach. Now, can you tell me something about thirst also? He says, of course. Enquire into why you feel thirsty. He said, we feel thirsty because the fire element inside us has dried up the water element. He said, how does fire dry up water? He said, just like dosa pan you have, and you put that water on the first one, you see how that fire regulates that water, so many skills are there, just in that putting the water. Depending upon how quickly that water evaporated, you estimate so many things about the pan, right? So it's just like that, same thing happens inside also. Fire element is regulating. What is it regulating? The water element. The function of this water element to digest the food and to quench that thirst. So this fire element is regulating it. So whenever you feel thirsty, just inquire into why am I feeling thirsty? With this question, you will end up with the elements. First, water element will be there. Then you will have fire element. Then shift your attention to that Sat. So Shvetaketu, whatever you have, whatever you are seeing outside, I told you one method to shift attention to Sat. What was it? Red, white, and grayish or darkish color. Each one has come from a particular element. Shift attention to Sat. With regards to physical body, two methods I said. One was through hunger, shift attention. Through thirst, shift attention to Sat. Now comes a portion which is slightly different from what was being said over here. Upanishad Rishi says, having dropped this physical body, this Jiva merges back in Sat. But if we merge without knowledge, we come back again. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. But if we merge with knowledge that I am this Sat, I am not this conditioning, there is no transmigration. This portion again will come later, but now Upanishad Rishi is just explaining what is the sequence of this dropping of physical body. But point is not to explain the sequence. Point is just to show that when we drop this physical body, we merge back into Sat. So what is this physical body? Body is something that we have got with a price tag. Okay, what is the price tag? It's a price tag of karma. When we are given this body, the lifespan is already predetermined. So when those karmas which were responsible for this particular lifespan, when they are exhausted, this jiva gets ready now to move to the next destination. What is that sequence in which this jiva departs? The first thing what happens is the speech which is there. First is speech is still there, even if the person is on the deathbed. Still he is speaking something. So all relatives gather around him and ask him only one question. Do you recognize me? Some question they ask so that they know that he is talking. Now all this is in Shankara Bhashya. I'm just translating from there. Bhagwan has elaborately given that sequence. What happens at the time of departure? This is speaking is there, then everything is good. The first step of sequence of departure is the speech merges into the mind. When speaking stops, but mind is still active. That person can recognize and everything, but speaking is not happening as much. What is the next step? It says this mind merges back into pranas. Okay. Same mantra only, I'm just representing over here. Next step is mind merges into pranas. And after that, this prana merges into fire element. Means until the body is warm, even if that person is not speaking, pranas are active, breath is there and body is warm, then they say this person is alive. But when even that is not there, then it is said this prana merges back into fire element, and that fire element finally merges back into Sat. Now one thing to note here is, don't take these animations literally. This is just to communicate a point. Don't think that there is Sat somewhere and then slowly one by one things are getting folded back into that Sat. Sat is ever there. Name and form of this prana, mind, speech, and body, all of that is dissolved back into this Sat. What is the important thing here? When we drop this physical body, we don't go into a void. We don't go into Shunyam. We go into that same Sat from which we all have emerged. Okay? So you look at this mantra, the same thing is mentioned. Yatha tu khalu somya imaha tisro devataha purusham prapya trivrit ekaika bhavati taduktam. Shvetaketu, I already pointed to you how these three elements are there in this physical body. Purastat eva bhavati asya somya purushasya prayato vang manasi sampadyate. Speech merges into mind of that person who is ready to depart. Manaha prane, mind merges into prana. Pranaha tejasi, prana merges into fire. Tejaha parasyam devatayam. And this fire element merges into that Sat. So what have we accomplished so far? See, we have accomplished two things. One is we established that substratum of this entire creation is Sat. And second thing we established, substratum of this physical body, this individual which I call as Aham, this real substratum of that is the same Sat. Through hunger you enquire, through sushupti you enquire, through thirst you enquire, through this physical body dropping process you enquire. Take whichever path you want, but come to this understanding that substratum of this individual, which I call as I, is not this physical body. This physical body also has a substratum, which is Sat. Now you pay attention, because next mantra is Mahavakya. Let us see what Uddalaka Muni is saying. This we will read and repeat. Saya esho anima, saya esho anima, aitadatmyamidagam sarvam, aitadatmyamidagam sarvam, tat satyam, sa atma, tattvamasi shvetaketo, tattvamasi shvetaketo, iti bhuyam evama, iti bhuya evama, bhagavan vijñāpayatviti, bhagavan vijñāpayatviti, tatha somyeti hovacha, tatha somyeti hovacha. Saya esho anima, that Sat, which is the subtlest of the subtlest, that is the essence of this entire creation. Aitadatmya midagam sarvam. Shvetaketu, what you are seeing as so many names and forms, all of them have emerged from this Sat. That is the Atma, that is the substratum of this entire world of plurality. Tat Satyam, that Sat alone is real. It doesn't get negated at any period of time. Creations happen, creations dissolve. This Sat is unaffected. So, oh, such a wonderful Sat is there. But what is the relevance of that for me, So Upanishad says, that Sat you are. Tat Sat Tvam Asi. Now Shvetaketu should not look back. He said, somebody behind you are saying Tat Sat Tvam Asi. He said, no, you are that Sat. Meaning what? You are the substratum of this creation. What is my understanding? I'm a tiny creature in this creation. I have come with this physical body, and without this physical body, I don't have any existence. Vedanta wants to say, you are that substratum Sat, in which creations come, creations go, you will remain. Okay, that is the import of this Vakya, Tattvamasi. Entire Vedanta is standing on these three words. Tat, Tvam, Asi. Doubts will be there, so many things will be there. All of them are discussed, all of them are resolved. But don't let go of this statement. Even if right now I don't fully, accept. Because one of the things which happens when we hear this is, O Tattvam Asi, maybe right now I am not that Sat. Right now I am whatever my name is. Put your name. You say, right now I am this person. One day I will become that Sat. You say, look at that statement closely. It is not Tattvam Bhavishyasi. You say, Tattvam Asi. Right now you are that Sat. I am erroneously including all other conditionings in me myself. This is power of Mahavakya. If we get it, we get it. If we don't, there are more chapters which are coming. This is only 8th section, right? 16th section we have to go. Slowly, one by one, different things will be answered. Tattvamasi Shvetaketu. Many a times when we hear this teaching, there is some previous doubt which is bothering us. Unless you resolve that doubt, this new teaching will not find its place. Same thing is happening with Shvetaketu now. Okay. Some previous point which Uddalaka Muni had said, he is having some doubt about that point. So he is asking question about clarification for that point. Uddalaka Muni is a very precise teacher. He will answer that question, but at the end of every answer, he will bring back the same paragraph. Meaning what? Those questions are okay. Whatever questions you had, right? What happens in Sushupti? What happens here? What happens there? All those questions are okay. Resolve those doubts, but come back to the main point that you are that Sat. You don't have to get abidance in hunger and thirst. You have to get abidance in Sat Vastu. So make sure you come back to it. Okay. So Mahavakya, if you want to explain in a very short, phrase, is the first step is substratum of creation is Sat. Second step is substratum of this individual is also Sat. And they are not two different things. It is that same Sat. Tat Sat Tvam Asi. That Sat which is the substratum of creation, that same Sat you are. So today in your study group, I think one of the question is this, about Mahavakya. What is Mahavakya trying to tell us? Right? So inquire into that, and more you try to make this description precise, more you try to shorten it, it will become more precise. Otherwise, Mahavakya, we can say so many things about Mahavakya. This is most important thing is, it is to remove the sense of finitude in Aham, and it is to remove this notion that Sat is something different from me. Okay, there is some Sat which is a substratum of creation, which is very wonderful. They say, no, that Sat you are. Okay. All right. Now Shvetaketu has a few other questions. So what is his question? He says, oh teacher, you told me something about deep sleep, right? That in deep sleep, all this mind flies in so many places and it again goes back into that Sat. But if I have gone into that Sat, if this mind has gone into that Sat, or this Jiva has gone into that Sat, why is it that we don't know we have become one with Sat? While we are in deep sleep, why is it that we don't know we are one with Sat? Okay, this is his question. Okay, this also, you have to read it later. Very simple. Guruji has, Swami Amma also has given all the word-to-word meanings. Everything is there. But whatever is relevant, I will cover. So what is the main topic of this section? While we are in deep sleep, why is it that we don't know we are one with Sat? Okay, this is the main question. So now Upanishad Rishi doesn't give direct answer. He only gives examples, very simple example, but appreciate the similarity. That is where our mananam will happen. That is where we will understand what is the main point which is being tried to communicate. Okay. So first example is of a honeybee. Okay, there is a honeybee which is over here, and then there are different flowers which this honeybee will go to. Okay, first it goes to a rose flower, then it goes to the other jasmine, whatever other flowers are. It is gathering nectar from every flower, and finally it goes back into its hive, and there it makes that honey. So now Upanishad Rishi says, this nectar might have come from different flowers, but when it merges in that honey, it does not know anything. Okay, now just appreciate the similarity. What is he pointing out? That nectar has come from different flowers, but when it is merged in that honey, if you ask that nectar, where did you come from? Do you know that you are one with honey? He said, no, I don't know anything, because it has lost its individuality. Then he says, that is the same thing which happens with all jivas. What is it that happens? In waking, we have so many identities. You know, somebody calls themselves a doctor, somebody an engineer, some other relationships, mother, father. Now, this is only with human beings. What about other jivas? You see, they also have their own identities. You know, they also have their own colonies, own titles. Everything they might have, but in deep sleep, all of them merge in Sat. Having lost that individuality, we don't know where we came from. We also don't know where we are. This is the main point here. If individuality is dissolved, or because individuality is dissolved in deep sleep, we don't know that we are one with Sat. That was Shvetaketu's question. Why is it that having gone into Sat, we don't know it? That is because this one who is going to claim that I am one with Sat, this Jiva itself is gone. Individuality itself is dissolved. So that is why we don't know it. But even to appreciate this point, that all of us have emerged from that same source, it's very liberating thought, you know. This struck to me once when I was traveling in a train. I used to come from Jaipur to Goa during college. Sometimes you have to travel in, you don't get a reservation because last minute everything will be, you know, hurried and everything. And non-reserved compartments, you will have a lot of drama going on because you have to be really strong to go inside, get a seat for yourself. A seat will be for 3 people, but there will be 6 people sitting there. On that luggage carrier also, there also people, here also, you're very filled. And invariably, there will be some kind of disagreement, some kind of fight going on, that this is my seat. Oh, I came first, you came first. And in the beginning, there were 2 people who were having this thing going on. And he said, no, I kept my handkerchief first. And I said, no, I came and sat here first. So somehow both of them sat next to each other, you know, with this very long face and everything. Both of them were next to each other. Few minutes, train started. Both of them fell asleep. This person on the other person's shoulder, other person on the first person's shoulder. If you just appreciate this point, both of them are one with Sat. When they are sleeping, they have no sense of this individuality. Both are one with Sat. Only when this ahankara wakes up and it doesn't have knowledge, this ahankara starts feeling, I am this person, you know, and I am different from this other person. I am different from this lion. I am different from this other animals which are there. Now we don't have to go and embrace lion. Vyavahara will always go on according to Nama Rupa. But that doesn't mean our understanding should be of duality. Understanding is of non-duality. Expression in Vyavahara is according to dharma, according to whatever that situation demands. So Shvetaketu, think about this fact that even while we are in the waking world, understanding that all of this has come from that Sat alone. But to answer your question, why do we not remember it? We don't remember it because individuality has been dissolved. And because jivas go into deep sleep, we saw in the previous example, right, that karmas are still waiting. They are knocking to give results. So when the next day's karmas are ready, everything emerges back from that deep sleep. From that Sat alone, everything has come out now. But Bhagwan's system is so wonderful, we wake up in the same way that we went to sleep. Although we were one with Sat, over there, lion also merged, all other animals also merged, different people also merged. But when we wake up in the same body, with the same identity. Otherwise, that would be another problem. You go to sleep as one person, you wake up as somebody else. You say, no, Bhagwan's system is very wonderful. But just thinking or appreciating this fact that we all merge back in Sat. Now Shvetaketu asks, oh, teacher, you said we emerge out of Sat. That when we wake up from deep sleep, we have come out from that same Sat. Why is it that having come out of Sat, we don't remember that we had gone into Sat? What was his previous question? Having gone into Sat, why don't we know anything? Now he's asking, having come out of that Sat, why don't I even remember that I was one with that Sat? Meaning if somebody goes to a city, let us say for vacation, very nice place you go, and you come back from that place, and somebody asks you, where did you come from? You say, oh, I had gone to this place. Right? Hawaii I had gone to, now I have come from there. If you had gone there, you remember it. So now Shvetaketu is asking, why is it that I don't know I had gone to Sat? Okay. Now also Upanishad Rishi will give a very wonderful example. Again, the 10th section, you will have to read the mantras by yourself. He gives an example of a river. Okay, what does he say? He says, look at how this river is formed. Where does it, emerge from? So first that ocean water which is there, that ocean water got heated up. It vaporized, it formed the clouds. And those clouds, because of wind, they went away and they reached a higher altitude. Okay. So wherever that mountain was there, the same cloud started showering as rain. And this rainwater, which was there on the top of this mountain, that came down this mountain as a river. Right? And this river water again went back and merged in this ocean. Now, if you ask the river, where did you come from? He says, I came from mountain. It will not say, I came from that ocean. Although it has emerged from that ocean, it has gone to that mountain and it is dissolving back in that ocean. If you ask that river, it will not remember that it has come from that Sat. It has come from that ocean. In the same way, if somebody asks us, where have we come from? We say either food or we say parents, father and mother. We say enquire into that cause further and further. Go until that point where we realize we all have come from that Sat. Over here also, the same thing is pointed out. Once this river merges in that ocean, it loses its individuality. So it does not remember where it has come from, and it does not know anything at that point. So that is what happens to us in deep sleep. If somebody has knowledge, then we will know that we are going into that sat in deep sleep, and we have emerged from that sat after deep sleep. Okay, so this is the point that Upanishad Rishi wants to point out. The first question he showed with the example of honey, that when nectar loses its individuality, becomes one with that honey, it does not know anything. Same thing with us. Lose individuality, we don't know what is happening in deep sleep. But having come out of that, if you don't have that knowledge, you will not remember where we have come out of from. You say some experience was there, very nice experience, very blissful experience. But this point we will not appreciate that bliss was from Sat in deep sleep. In that deep sleep, there was no individuality, so we could not remember anything. But having come out of it, then also we don't remember, either because we don't have knowledge or because we have not enquired into where we have come out from. Okay. If there are questions, we can discuss. But this point, just appreciate the example, if not all other points, that this river does not know I have come from that ocean. If you ask the river, it says, I came from mountain. That was Shvetaketu's question, right? Why is it that I don't remember where I came from? He says, look at that river. It has not inquired into the substratum. It has just stopped at some immediate cause. This is in the same way, Shvetaketu, even though all jivas emerge from Sat, they do not know their origin. Okay, this is the point that Uddalaka Muni wants to communicate, that we all merge back in the same Sat, but having come out of it, we don't remember it. The main essence, if you want to call, of this entire section is the two portions, the honey example and the river example. Knowledge of Sat is more important than experience of Sat. Coming and going into Sat is not very important. What is important is knowledge of Sat. If you know it, then coming and going is a joy. Even when we are out of deep sleep, we will still understand or abide in this fact that I am of that nature of Sat. Right? Because otherwise, knowledge should not be that only when I go into deep sleep, I am one with Sat. So that is just to illustrate a point. Knowledge should be in deep sleep or even otherwise in waking and dream, I am that Sat only. But deep sleep is easier to analyze because there is exclusive Sat. Names and forms are not there, nothing to bother. So if you analyze Sushupti, deep sleep, it becomes easier to appreciate what is the nature of this Sat. Okay, we don't have to experience Sat. Even right now, while you are listening, while I'm talking, we are that Sat only. What we have to do is understand this fact, recognize this fact, then only we will benefit from this knowledge. It is just like you might have noticed many a times you meet some person, you greet that person, you shake hands with that person, but you don't end up talking. Okay, you just exchange pleasantries and then you go away. Then you ask your friend, who was that person who came here? Your friend says you shook hand with him, you experienced his form, and still you are asking who that person is. He says experience is not important. I need that knowledge of who he is. And then if somebody says he's the governor of a state, you were just visiting and then he came and then he just shook hands. Oh, governor came and he shook hands with me. He said you already had that experience. but you did not know what that experience was. Greatness of that experience, I did not know, or the details of that experience, I did not know. So Sat is also like that, ever experienced, but just we should know the greatness of this Sat. What is the greatness? That this Sat alone is a substratum of this creation. So I am that Sat, witness of this thought is who I am, and that witness alone is substratum. All right. Now Shwetaketu will go on to ask few more questions that we will see in the next session. Okay. I will stay back. There were a lot of questions which were turned in the form, so we will take up few of them for discussion. More, if they still remain, we can discuss some other time. There were quite a few, so we'll see how many we can take. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.